Welcome to Frackulous. If you've got a need to know the newest, the hottest and the overall bestest apps out there, we're at your service. Enjoy. I have a new short-lived obsession this week thanks to the excellent book Just My Type. It's pages upon pages of stories about why Comic Sans has its advantages, why the creator of the Jill Sans font was a bit of an oddball, and why the word interrobang is definitely worth Googling. And so, to today's app, Type Drawing for the iPad. Quite simply, it makes pictures out of your text. That is, you specify the text, get ye to iTunes to subscribe to the Frackulous Omnibus, for instance. You then specify a font, or get out of control by choosing the random font picker, choose a colour and a background, and get drawing. The words will follow your finger, and you can even set it for the size of the font to change the quicker you draw. It's not an app that will change your life, and unless you're a typography print designer, it probably won't even be that useful. But there's room for apps like that on Frackulous. After all, if all we had in the App Store was maps and to-do lists, what a sad place the technology world would be. This week's Celebrity App Doctor goes out to Mark from The Only Way is Essex, a show that if you haven't seen, you haven't lived. Mark obviously needs an app that might provide him with some knowledge as to how to run Juice's, his so far quite ill-fated bar. Now, Mark couldn't be with us today as he's getting a spray tan done, but never fear, as we have just the app. He may not look like he has any experience in bar owning, but with Cocktail Flow for Windows Phone 7, he won't have to. This excellent app will let you name the ingredients in your cupboard and come up with a cocktail you can make as a result. Perfect if you're having a few stock issues. There's advice on what glasses need to be used when, and explanations on common garnishes. And because it's Windows Phone 7, there are fancy swishers a go-go. So Mark, Series 1 may be over, you may have got the girl, several girls in fact, and now with our help you can be just like Brian Brannigan in Cocktail. You're very welcome. This week's viewer question comes from Lewis, who has asked us to forego our look at apps to help him out with a hardware dilemma. He tells us he's making the move from a Nokia phone, as he wants something with more apps, and he's stuck between the Nexus 1, the HTC Wildfire and the HTC Desire. And since apps need hardware like crumpets need Marmite, we're happy to help. Lewis, the Nexus 1 is our Android handset of choice, and is rumoured to be the chosen one to get the latest Android OS update, Gingerbread. In fact, by the time you watch this, it may already have happened. The HTC Desire is essentially the same handset, but skinned with a swishy HTC interface. If pretty graphics and the representation of the real-life weather on your screen is important to you, it's certainly a consideration. The HTC Wildfire is the budget version of this, and honestly, it depends on your cash situation as to whether you want to go bells and whistles or not. However, one thing worth bearing in mind is the incoming Nexus 2, or the Nexus S as it's officially called. It'll be made by Samsung and is predicted to look like the very good-looking Samsung Galaxy. That will also run Gingerbread, so if you want the latest in phone goodness, keep an eye out for this. It could be with us tomorrow, it might be in a month, but it will be soon. This week's challenge is all about getting you working smarter and, crucially, not any harder. Whether you're iPhone or Windows Phone 7, there's an app out there to get you work savvy.
If a bonus is looking unlikely this Christmas, the next best thing is a fully completed expenses claim. To make double sure you're not missing any receipts, stick JotNot Scanner on your phone and you can capture them on the go. Unlike a regular camera app, JotNot is designed to work more like a scanner, so anything you capture is easy to read. It can straighten up wonky shots, so they look like perfect scans ready to send off to finance. The free version will export images back to your camera roll, but stump up 59p and you can email them straight from the app or save them to Dropbox to pick up later on your PC.
How much is this meeting costing us is an incredibly unimaginatively titled app, which works out the cost of each meeting you're in. Just enter the number of people in the meeting, the average salary, and watch the money tick by. Seem to be spending most of your life in pointless meetings? Nothing focuses the mind like the visualisation of cold, hard cash. Well, it's been a long wait, but finally iOS 4.2 is here, much to the relief of every iPad owner in the land, each of whom has realised that without multitasking, the iPad is limited. So, what's it got, and why should you update? Multitasking has probably been the most anticipated feature, and it works just like on the iPhone. Double tap the home key and you get a taskbar, allowing you to switch between apps. Brilliant if you're working on a document and want to check something quickly in Safari or Twitter. Speaking of Safari, there's also the ability to find specific text within the web page. Just enter your search term in the Google search box at the top, and as well as pulling Google results in, it'll find the number of instances of that word on the page. If you heard weird moans of ecstasy on the release of the iOS, that was the sound of geeks across the world arranging their apps into perfect little folders. Anyone with pages upon pages of unorganised apps on their iPad will be thrilled to see folders making the leap from the iPhone to the iPad. But it's not all good news. Love the fact that your iPad has an orientation lock switch on the side? Bad news. In the interest of standardisation, this is now a mute button, like on the iPhone. To lock the screen now, you have to double tap and scroll to the right, which in my opinion is the worst decision Steve Jobs has ever made. Overall though, it's good news for iPad owners. All I need now is a wireless keyboard for my iPad, and it's practically a laptop. Happy days. Another week has flown by, as has another jam-packed Frackulous Omnibus. Fear not though, we'll be back next week with more jam-packing, and in all likelihood, ever more Christmassy outfits. Want more? Go to www.frackulous.com/follow for a glut of RSS-y, iTunes-y, podcasty, subscription-y options.